Amazon helped lift U.S. stocks back up again on Friday after reporting profit in the holiday quarter that beat expectations, giving investors something to cheer at the end of a volatile trading week. The e-commerce giant also surprised investors by breaking out advertising as a separate business for the first time and said it was raising the price of its U.S. Prime subscriptions. Shares rose more than 13% by midday Friday in what would be the stock's biggest one-day percentage gain since October 2017. For the holiday quarter, Amazon earned $14 billion, double its net income from a year earlier. Its key cloud unit, Amazon Web Services, performed better than expected, posting a 40% increase in revenue as demand rose for gaming and remote work during the pandemic. On the heels of a windfall from more at-home shopping, Amazon has poured money into its operations to manage disruptions, most recently the Omicron variant. Amazon has also marketed signing bonuses to attract hundreds of thousands of workers in a tight labor market and has paid more for shipping. But hiking the price of Prime for Amazon's more than 200 million paid subscribers looked like a way to offset those higher costs, a move analysts had expected. Annual memberships will go up to $139 from $119 this month. Breaking out its advertising business may have been the biggest treat for analysts and investors, who used to have to guess its size, and they liked what they saw. Ad revenue jumped 32% to $9.7 billion. That's bigger than the ad sales Google parent Alphabet reported for YouTube in the same quarter. Amazon also said its ad business was, quote, largely unchanged after Apple's privacy tweaks to its operating system. Those same changes made it more difficult for brands to target ads on Instagram and Facebook, which led to Meta Platforms' dire forecast that tanked the tech sector on Thursday and knocked shares of Meta down 26%.
Attorney Michael Avenatti, who rose to fame for taking on former President Donald Trump, was found guilty by a federal jury on Friday on charges he'd defrauded a former client, the adult film star Stormy Daniels. Avenatti represented Daniels when she made the explosive claim that Trump's former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, paid her hush money during the 2016 presidential campaign to keep quiet about allegations she'd had a sexual affair with the married Trump. Cohen admitted the payoff and pleaded guilty to violating campaign finance laws. Trump denied the affair, but Avenatti became a fixture on cable TV programs and the face of one of the most salacious scandals of the Trump administration. The attorney even flirted with a run for president, but his fortunes faltered after he was hit with dozens of criminal charges of defrauding clients and attempting to extort $25 million from apparel maker Nike. Daniels, his former client, said the lawyer embezzled money meant for her as part of a book deal. Avenatti pleaded not guilty to the charges and represented himself at trial. He downplayed the dispute as a disagreement over legal fees and claimed his contract with Daniels entitled him to a share of her book and media profits. He is appealing his conviction and 2.5-year sentence in the Nike extortion case. Friday's guilty verdict means he could face up to 22 years behind bars.
Wall Street avoided further metastasis on Friday, recovering after Facebook owner Meta Platforms sank U.S. stocks the day before, as Amazon's strong earnings boosted sentiment after a mixed week of big tech earnings. The Dow finished flat and the S&P closed up 0.5%, while the Nasdaq gained more than 1.5%, ending the volatile week higher after Thursday's rout. Kevin Nicholson, chief investment officer at Riverfront Investment Group, said the real reason for Friday's rebound was the jobs report, which showed job growth that was much higher than economists had expected.
The stock market is reacting to the jobs report that we had this morning, which was very strong. We added almost 500,000 new jobs. So we've had the equity markets really react off of this, saying that because we have such a strong jobs market that we will go higher because a lot of the bottlenecks that we had experienced earlier in the year will start to go away as more companies are hiring out there.
Amazon finished Friday's session up 13.5% after reporting profit in the holiday quarter that beat expectations. It also delighted investors by hiking its Prime subscription rate and breaking out its ad business for the first time. A day after Meta dragged down all social media stocks, Snap soared on Friday, closing up a whopping 59% after reporting better than expected fourth quarter user growth and a positive outlook. Pinterest rose 11% after its quarterly revenue beat estimates as retailers splurged on advertising during the holidays. And Twitter rose 7% ahead of posting its results, which are expected on February 10th. In the red on Friday was Meta again, though the bleeding appeared to be staunched, with shares finishing about flat. Clorox went from hot wash to cold rinse, closing down 14.5% after reporting a big drop in revenue in the last quarter, and said rising costs will eat into profit for years to come. And shares of Ford Motor Company hit the skids, closing down nearly 10%, after the automaker posted disappointing quarterly numbers and forecast a slower recovery for this year's vehicle production than rival General Motors.
The Republican Party on Friday censured U.S. Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger for joining Congress's probe of then-President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election, calling the January 6th Capitol attack legitimate political discourse.
Ms. Cheney?
Cheney and Kinzinger voted to impeach Trump on a charge of incitement of insurrection after last year's deadly January 6th Capitol riot, and are the only Republicans taking part in the House probe of the attack. The RNC Friday passed a resolution rebuking Cheney and Kinzinger for their involvement on the January 6th Select Committee, accusing them of participating in a Democrat-led persecution of ordinary citizens engaged in legitimate political discourse. 4 people died on January 6th, and a Capitol police officer died the next day. About 140 police officers were injured, and 4 later died by suicide. The resolution passed on a voice vote as 168 members of the RNC gathered for their winter meeting in Salt Lake City. The yes votes were overwhelming, with just a handful of nays, according to reporters at the meeting.
The president is unfit.
The statement said Cheney and Kinzinger's actions hurt Republican efforts to win back majorities in Congress, and said the RNC will immediately cease any and all support of them as party members. But it stopped short of calling for their expulsion from the party as initially proposed. Trump, who retains a strong grip over his party as November 8th midterm congressional elections draw closer, has been on the warpath against Republicans he sees as disloyal to him. Both Cheney and Kinzinger issued statements in anticipation of Friday's vote. Cheney said, quote, "The leaders of the Republican Party have made themselves willing hostages to a man who admits he tried to overturn a presidential election and suggests he would pardon January 6 defendants, some of whom have been charged with seditious conspiracy." A few Republicans, such as Senator Mitt Romney, criticized the RNC's move, tweeting, "Shame falls on a party that would censure persons of conscience who seek truth in the face of vitriol."
First thing you'll see is in that space between the Marine's antenna and his chest, you'll see an individual dressed in all black, where the cursor is circling right now. The blast seems to emanate from this individual. Based upon our investigation at the tactical level, this was not preventable, and the leaders on the ground followed the proper measures.
The investigation found that a single explosive device killed at least 170 Afghan civilians and 13 U.S. service members by explosively directing ball bearings through a packed crowd and into our men and women at Abbey Gate. The investigation found no definitive proof that anyone was ever hit or killed by gunfire, either U.S. or Afghan. At this point, I want to acknowledge that the investigation differs from what we initially believed on the day of the attack. At the time, the best information we had in the immediate aftermath of the attack indicated that it was a complex attack by both a suicide bomber and ISIS-K gunman. The fact that this investigation has contradicted our first impression demonstrates to me that the team went into this investigation with an open mind in search of the truth.